Downer is very proud to bring this podcast series to you. At Downer, our purpose is to provide the vital services that connect communities and enable them to thrive. We do this by assembling the best minds, harnessing the power of technology and our enduring relationships to deliver sustainable outcomes for all.
My name is Jo Taranto and I'm joined today by Millie Simpson, a process water engineer at Arup. And today we're talking about WineRES, a tool to assess the wine industry's resilience. Thanks for joining me, Millie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Tell me about your role at Arup and what you do.
So I'm fairly new to Arup, which has been really exciting because it's meant that I've been able to throw myself into a really wide range of projects. At the moment, I'm doing a little bit of water for hydrogen work, some drinking water projects and treatment plants. And then, obviously this wine resilience tool that has emerged, which has been really fun.
It already feels like a career highlight. How did you come to work with the wine industry?
Well, 2 years ago now, actually, I drove my van. I have a van that I renovated. We drove it across the Nullarbor and up the WA coast and back down the middle. And, looking at a lot of my photos and reflecting back, I realised that a lot of it was sort of reflecting really important surface water ecosystems and, the animals, but also the culture and the economies that it supports. And obviously when you do a trip like that, you spend a lot of time in Margaret River, the home of wine, I guess. But it got me thinking about how the Australian wine industry is using those surface water resources. We obviously rely a lot on the River Murray and draw a lot of water from there, particularly in the Barossa region. And I couldn't understand how, the sustainability lens was coming into that and what kind of work was being done there. So I guess I just got a little bit curious and Arup supported me in doing that and we developed this tool.
Is the wine industry particularly water intensive?
Yes. Look, I can't give you exact numbers on that, but in the Barossa Valley, they draw their water from the River Murray. There's obviously other, recycled water sources that are feeding into that as well, but the majority of water that's being sent to the Barossa and put on those vineyards is from the Murray. As with a lot of industries in Australia, we really rely on that surface water and groundwater as our sort of traditional water resources that we're drawing from and don't necessarily consider, recycled water sources or desalination water sources first.
When we talk about resilience, it's obviously a lot more than just water use. What does the WineRES tool do?
So for us, we wanted to develop a tool that was able to, connect existing research about climate change and water scarcity to the wine industry stakeholders directly. So be that a small vineyard or, a massive multinational winemaker or even just a local water governance body, we wanted to be able to give them a tool where they could assess their resilience, clearly understand potential weaknesses in their holistic resilience, and then have a really clear pathway forward to build that capability back up. So the tool is looking at 4 key dimensions. We've got health and well-being, which looks at, the prosperity of the community and the broader regional health. We've got leadership and strategy, which looks at empowering our communities and, coordinated governance. We've got planning and finance, which is looking at the sustainability of funding and finance in the regions. And then we've also got infrastructure and ecosystems, which is looking at the effective management of our assets, but also effective response planning and those kind of things.
You're listening to the Australian Water Association podcast series, and I'm speaking with Millie Simpson, process water engineer for Arup, about WineRES. And how did you develop the tool? Was it more than just driving around and checking out some vineyards, I'm sure?
So Arup actually developed the city water resilience approach a few years ago now. And what we did was took that existing research, as well as the existing research by the wine industry, and adapted that city water resilience approach to be applicable to the wine industry context. So we haven't, developed this out of nowhere. This is sitting on a bedrock, I guess, of really strong Arup resilience planning work. But from developing that city water resilience approach, we've also developed a assessment metric to go alongside that. So we're able to go to our stakeholders and assess them according to our indicators that we've developed, and then output for them an overall resilience score, but also a sunburst visualization that helps them really visualize their resilience profile rather than just give them a report or numbers on a page.
Have you had any feedback on the tool?
So we have run it recently with a water governance body. I can't say too much more than that, obviously, but I think even just in the workshop process with them and running the tool, we were able to identify some areas that they really hadn't thought of yet from a resilience strategy point of view. So particularly around hazard monitoring and forecasting, but also, embedding automated systems in some of their asset management. So we're in the stages of giving that report back to them, and we'll have a feedback session and get a little bit more info. But so far as well, we've had a lot of questions about, how can we adapt this for other industries? And I think a pretty clear avenue for that is the, water-intensive food industries. So the dairy industry comes to mind, but, also in this emerging green hydrogen industry, sort of using the tool as a bit of a checklist to embed resilience early in some of those industries, I think could be really useful.
What outcomes can we see from the use of this tool?
So there's a couple of different levels that we can look at this. From an immediate stakeholder level, they can use the tool, get a resilience metric that they can really clearly use to, communicate their resilience, but also to track their resilience over time. And from there, we can use the outcomes of the tool to develop, really robust adaptation strategies for these guys to be able to bolster their resilience holistically. When we look at it at more of a regional scale, if the outcomes are shared, we can look at creating some adaptation hubs where we can, flag best performers in those regions. And that facilitates knowledge sharing amongst different stakeholders within a region, but also shares the responsibility of resilience building efforts. And then taking it bigger picture, data collection from this tool can be used to inform government policy more broadly. If there's a really rich data pool that comes out of a broad usage of the tool, governments will be able to drill down on different areas of resilience and understand that better and create more informed policy for a region. And it also helps with ESG reporting that's becoming, way more important these days by giving people a really solid metric and clear, robust metric that they can include in their reporting.
It sounds like you've had a wonderful experience developing this tool, Millie. Any advice for people who are exploring a career in the water industry?
I think I've been really lucky at Arup that they've been able to just support my pushiness on this topic. But I think in terms of advice, I've always been one to really follow my passions and talk to people about my passions and find people who can help me go about that. So just putting the word out there really has gotten me a really long way with this tool. But I think it's good advice to go by.
I think a lot of people share your passion for the wine industry. I've been speaking with Millie Simpson, process water engineer at Arup. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.